I'm gonna hit go live and we'll start. Like right now, it's just setting up on Facebook. So I think we are currently live, so share that. And I wanna welcome everyone to today's Master Series interview with Gabrielle Hartley. I am so pleased that she accepted my invitation. And
oh my God.
So Gabrielle, you're so accomplished. You're a family law attorney, a divorce attorney. You're an author of this awesome book that I have been reading, Better Apart, and actually helped me get some interview questions for you today. You're a speaker and you're a negotiator, and your approach is non-toxic and a positive movement, because we all want to make divorce we all want to do a better way of doing divorce these days, right? So that's what I think you and I both share, is our intention is to make divorce a lot smoother, easier, and just, so much more pleasant for couples out there. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get in this? And I'll let you go.
Sure. Absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share this live right now, so I'll have to do it later.
Yeah,
so,
later's fine.
Yeah. So how did I come to this? So my parents divorced when I was 9 and my brother was 6, and it was the 80s. And there was really no such thing as non-toxic divorce. It was like the era of Kramer versus Kramer, right? And my parents really divorced.
I think we're losing you for just a second, Gabrielle. Just hold on one second.
And they were almost like braggy about it. They were always talking about, what amazing divorce people they were. And, as a kid, they were still fighting. It's not like it was. Is it okay now?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cutting out.
Saying connection unstable. Do you hear me?
It's a little unstable. So let's just back up a little bit. So how'd you get into this? You were telling us about.
Tell me when I can go.
Your parents. Right now, I hear you. So you go ahead and tell us about your parents and divorcing. And
do you want to log back in? All right. Okay. So now you're frozen. Am I frozen? Am I okay now?
You're okay now. So you go ahead.
Am I okay? Okay. So basically, when my parents divorced, there was like no such thing as a non-toxic divorce. It was the era of Kramer versus Kramer, and a lot of drama. And my parents did it really well, or so they like to talk about, right? Right? Like, we changed houses every day. We had shared custody. Both of my parents were very involved all the time. And as the kid growing up in that environment, I was very aware of like how weird it was viewed externally. Like, oh, your parents get along. Oh, like it was this odd thing, an oddball thing. And when I went to law school, the last thing I wanted to do was divorce. I was like, I'm so done with this topic. And, fast forward several years, I wound up clerking for a top divorce court judge in New York City. And I saw how lucky I had been that my parents were actually so non-toxic, because the process and your lawyers and the court process and your friends and the media and everything just sort of froths up what's already a difficult situation and creates all kinds of rabbit holes that can blow up. And I thought, first of all, I felt so lucky that my parents kind of held it together, even though it was definitely not easy. But I also thought, as a divorce lawyer, I wanted to just really specialize in non-toxic divorce, on creating as little collateral damage as I could, even though obviously, like, I worked in a court, and when you work in a court, the tensions are up here, right? So I'm like trying to bring down the charge. And there hit a point where I said, there needs to be another way forward. And so that is what basically sparked the idea of the Better Apart method, which I now use to train other divorce professionals to help their clients through, in a better way. And of course, I still have my mediation practice.
Right.
So
awesome. Well, I love your story because, you know, it's funny how we do that. We like think we are not going to do anything that what we experienced as kids, and then we end up helping and repeating history, but in a good way, right? So that's wonderful that you found your gift. And another thing I read, a statistic that's amazing. You keep 99% of your cases out of the courtroom. So what's your secret?
I don't know. I'm always telling people I'm not a magician. Like, I don't make any guarantees, but somehow I think that I notice the neutral a lot. You know, I think I validate. I think I cut through the positions and get to the interest pretty quickly with my cases. I cut through a lot of the BS, pardon my language, and my cases tend to move forward quickly, and then we create agreements that last. Because one thing you need to really make sure of when you're meeting with a mediator is that you create an agreement that is clear and unequivocal, because agreements to agree, which a lot of people are inclined to do in mediation, they think, oh, we can figure that out later. Oh, we don't need to pay you to do that. Fast forward 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 years, you're in court because you had this wishy-washy agreement with nothing for a judge to dig their teeth into, and it takes a year and a half, and you wind up hating each other, all because
I read that in your book, especially about parenting plans, and we're like, oh, we'll figure it out as we go. No, that does not work. Do not do that. Figure it out now. So that's a great piece of advice. Also, like, how do you work with your clients? So tell us about that.
So do you mean like how does it work? So, like online? Yeah. So I do it in different ways depending on what the parties need. It's really a custom tailored approach. Okay. So sometimes people do, you know, for simpler cases, I have a Blitz mediation method where it's a set number of meetings. It's a little bit less expensive, and it's sort of a quick kind of thing. Other people really need a lot of hands-on holding. So I will have a session with one party and then the other party where we go into each person's perspective, and then we have transparent meetings all together.
Okay.
Other times we do everything all together, and we only do breakout rooms when I feel like it will help move everybody along, and when the parties agree. So basically I have different models, and it just depends on what they need and where they are in the process, you know?
Right.
Like if everybody's sort of in the same place and everyone's ready to hit go, we just have a couple of meetings and it's pretty quick.
Right. Good. So also getting back to your book, Better Apart, you talk about a philosophy or a way your approach, and you talk about 5 states of being. So can you tell the viewers what that's all about?
Absolutely. So if you're going to think of it as like a container or a construct to hold everything in, think of it as like, how do you activate your strongest, most powerful inner agency, right? How are we going to stop being complicit in our own undoings, stop blaming, and become an active visionary, right? So that like applies to all of us, whether you're divorced, not divorced, married, whatever. But that's sort of like the overarching theme, if you will. And so the 5 elements are all about you, okay? And they're patience, respect, peace, clarity, and forgiveness. So patience is like taking a step back so that you can move forward, right? Clarity is the, you know, stop blaming and start envisioning. What do you want your life to look like? How do you want to look back on your marriage? How do you want to look back on your divorce? Forgiveness, it's not like, oh, it's okay that you did that to me. It's accepting the situation and recognizing that we're angry because it protects us when we're hurt, but does it serve us in 10, 15, 20, 40 years? Probably not, right? Respect, where can we create boundaries so that we can feel better and so that we can feel self-respect? And then peace, in order to have anything negative heard and changed in the part of your ex, they have to feel like you're supportive most of the time, even if you can't stand them. So one really actionable thing you can do is notice the neutral meaning when they bring your child home and they come home looking healthy or smiling, say, hey, seems like you had a great time with dad. See, or they, they're always like, hey, Sally, thanks for being on time. Noticing the neutral is game changing, because it takes all of us, not just your ex, people in my life and your life. We all need to hear, they used to say 5 to 7 positives. Now I hear 8 to 12 positives, every 1 negative. So paving forward. And I'm not talking about toxic positivity. I'm talking about like getting real and feeling good so you can move forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that philosophy. And you know what's so cool about your book is that you have exercises for the reader to do while they're going through this. And there's such what I'm so impressed with is your mindful approach, because I used to teach yoga. So this is a very yogi philosophy throughout the book. And you actually have with Elena Brower, she contributes that yoga side. And so it's very mindful and aware, which we don't see that much. I mean, you wouldn't associate awareness with a divorce attorney. So kudos for you for being so mindful and aware, which gets me to the next question, which is about litigation, right? And there's such a downside, right? But here's where I really want to specifically talk about a subject. Say, like you mentioned, someone's really hurt and the other party ran off with another person and maybe there's a baby, whatever, you can imagine the drama, right? And so what happens is the hurt party wants to have their day in court, because a judge, as soon as they hear this, will side with me. But what's the reality of that?
Yeah, so what we think is important is so often not legally relevant. When I used to work for Judge Sunshine, I have to say his name because it's a great name for a divorce judge. He was always saying, you don't want this stranger in black robes deciding your life. And judges have limitations. First of all, they're people, so we all have limitations because we're people, right? So they have their own biases, their own thoughts, their own experiences, and they're limited by the law. And the law does not care about a lot of things that we care about. And the law is not going to help you create a carefully nuanced separation agreement, like, oh, well, I give him Friday for pizza every week, pizza Friday at dad's. Like, I don't care about that. Well, you could, if you mediate, you can put whatever you want in the agreement. You can negotiate anything. You can get so creative. That's the part that I love, right? Like really sort of mashing it all together and then figuring out how can we get both parties to feel good enough. Maybe even both feel like they won, but let's just go with good enough, and then they can go forward from there.
Yeah, I often call, like when I talk to my clients about mediation, I say it's creative negotiation. And it's, it's the best way to get what you want. Of course, you have to give to get. And so I love that idea of creative negotiation. So one last question before we wrap this up, because we want to keep it short, is how do people get in touch with you?
Oh my gosh. So just head over to GabrielleHartley.com. That's GabrielleHartley.com. Or you could just send me an email at Gabrielle@GabrielleHartley.com. And I do my best to get back to everyone within 24 hours. So glad to be here with you, India. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabrielle. And just one last thing before we go. So tomorrow I'm going to be here again with my personal trainer, and you're going to get to see him kick my butt. So you should definitely tune in. It's the master series all week. And then we're ending on Friday with a master class. It's how to get the right mindset in divorce, so it all fits together. And again, thank you so much, Gabrielle. This has been a pleasure. And I wish we were closer so we could go have some coffee, because we just hit it off so well. There's one last thing. So I know you're half Italian. I speak a little Italian, and because I lived over there for a little bit. What is the saying you say? Piano, piano. What is it?
Si fa lontano. Piano, piano, si fa lontano. Slowly, slowly, you go far.
Okay.
Right. And that, I use that phrase, I think, in the book, actually.
You did, because
Oh.
I saw it and I was like, oh, Italian. I'm gonna remember that. And of course I remember piano, but not the rest.
Somebody once said to me, you know, slowest is fastest, because I am not slow. I'm straightforward, but I'm not slow. And learning to slow down is really, it's really powerful. You can do it. If you've got a secret on how to do it, you can let me know as well.
Okay, well, we'll end on that. I love that last Italian verse or saying. So you have a wonderful day, and we'll be in touch. Thank you again for being a part of this master series.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.